public hearing to order. This is the application of Northbrook Place LLC, Elite Apartments, for rezoning and special development district designation for 99 South Main Street. Roll call, Mr. Brown.
Ms. Billings-Smith.
Present.
Ms. Blanks.
Present.
Ms. Cantor.
Here.
Mr. Cortez.
Here.
Mr. Davidoff.
Here.
Ms. Fay.
Present.
Mr. Sweeney.
Here.
Mr. Winograd.
Here.
And Mr. Zadinos.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bro. We will now go to the presentation from the applicant.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the Town Council. My name is Robin Pearson. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Alter and Pearson in Glastonbury, Connecticut, and it's a pleasure to be here this evening on behalf of the applicant, Northbrook Place LLC. Northbrook Place is the owner of the property for which this zone change and special development district is sought at 99 South Main Street. I'm sure you've had a chance to drive by it and take notice of it this time because it's been there forever and it's sort of something you don't easily picture in your mind. But it is a three-story brick apartment building that obviously exists. And the purpose of this application is to be able to add additional parking to the rear of that existing apartment building. I have previously provided for your record the sign affidavit because this is a continued hearing. It was opened and then immediately continued. And we've also provided this evening a second affidavit which indicates the signs have remained up. Not that it's a requirement, but just so you know, there's been long-standing amount of time by which the sign has been out there advertising this particular hearing. With me this evening are the representatives of the owner, the members of the LLC, and that's Rick Chozik and Steve Pappas. They're not going to participate in the presentation, but they're certainly here to answer any questions that you have. And also joining me, and right behind me at the podium, because he knows I'm not great with the clicker, is Jeff Fitzgerald, who is he's a PE, an engineer, and is the project manager, and he's with Bowler Engineering and did all the plans and has been coordinating with town staff on various small issues that deal with things like drainage. I'd like to point out this is the cover sheet of the plan set that is before you for consideration. And Jeff, we're able to zero in on the site map?
Yeah, we have it here. We can't zoom on this setup here, but it's...
Oh, so we can't get any tighter than that?
No.
Okay. If you do have this reproduced in the 11 by 17 plan sheets that I believe that you have before you, but more than that, I can tell you what is up there if your eyes are as challenged as mine are. We've taken an aerial map that shows the outline of the proposed SDD site at 99 South Main Street. If you look closer, okay, to the south of the property is an existing apartment complex. And it is also, it's been there for quite a while. To the north of the property, abutting the property, and up to the point of Boulevard are two single-family homes that have been converted to office uses, and they have been there in that with that use for many, many, many years. The applicants purchased this property in 2021. The building itself had been built in 1968. It comprises 36 units, though it was actually constructed with 37 units, but permitting for that 37th unit has not been readily able to be found. Therefore, as soon as Northbrook Northbrook Place LLC bought the property in 1968. They immediately ceased to rent out this 37th unit, which was on the basement level. It's where superintendents had previously resided. So only 36 units on this property are currently approved with COs. There are 36 parking spaces on the site. I'm sorry, 37 parking spaces now, which would have served each of the 37 units back then. Northbrook Place has been talking with the town administration about getting that basement unit re-permitted, and this application does seek to be able to do that, which means you would be approving, if the application is favorably reviewed tonight, you would be approving a density of 37 units on the property. They still have steps that they would then have to go through with the town administration and potentially at the state level with regard to various codes that they have to meet, such as fire codes and such. But this would be the first step in that process. When Northbrook Place acquired the property and initially met with the town staff, it was thought initially, before a lot more work was done to delve into the background of this particular approval, that it might be an easy process, that they could acquire additional land, and they were in discussions with a neighbor, and I'll get into that in a little more detail, and be able to add to the parking as part of just a site plan review, which is an administrative process in West Hartford, and that would be based on the fact that the underlying zone would be an RM1, which it was initially thought that that was indeed the case for this property. But as sometimes happens, when you dig deeper, you find that that is not the case. And as you can see with this particular site plan on the cover sheet, there's a dotted line that goes through the property. It's only the southern portion of the property that is actually zoned RM1. So this property built, the apartment complex built in 1968, has never conformed with the underlying zoning in its entirety. And it also does not conform today with your parking requirements, and I'm not sure if it did back then either, but that's sort of beside the point. We are where we are today, and it's time to fix the situation, and that's part of the reason why we're here. I think what I'd like to do is go to the next slide. So this is a close-up of the property that Northbrook Place now owns. It owns the piece that's outlined solidly in yellow, and that is the parcel that they acquired in 2021, and is the parcel that the complex was built on back in 1968. The yellow hatched mark to the west, that area, is a piece of property from the parcel on Boulevard that was an extremely deep lot. Only the top part of the park, the northern part on Boulevard, having been developed, and the rest of it was, backyard that went very deep down to the south. And Northbrook Place approached them to see if they would be interested in selling the back part to even out that lot in order to expand their parking. And the owners were receptive, and that has actually happened. That additional 7,988 square feet is what I believe it is. 7,988 square feet was purchased, and the lot line revision application was approved contingent upon this being able to go forward. But it has been reviewed, and it has been established that the remainder of the lot on Boulevard is conforming, and with the addition of this crosshatched piece to the initial piece acquired by Northbrook Place. It will make that site, 99 South Main Street, even more conforming. And obviously, it allows for the opportunity to be able to do what Northbrook Place wants to do, which is to expand its parking. And why does it want to do that? Well, first of all, it wants to be able to be more conforming and meet the zoning code, which requires 1.5 spaces per unit. And also, it is looking to ways to reinvest in its property and to make its units more desirable in the community. And as an older apartment complex, one way they can become more viable and more desirable in terms of a rental destination is to have more parking. It allows them, in a way, to compete with newer units, which have a lot more other types of amenities that are attractive to renters. This would make it more attractive to somebody who's looking for for more parking. It's also a complex that's outside of the center itself, though close by. It's perhaps more of a complex that is more dependent on a car than might be one of the units that are already built in the center or one that might be approved in the center. When they started looking at what would be required, they realized that because most of the property is now still in an R6 zone, that they would need an underlying zone change to an RM1 for the crosshatched piece and the portion of 99 South Main that is not currently zoned RM1. However, they thought that just coming into you with a change of zone to change this parcel to an RM1 entire zone, including the crosshatch piece, would not necessarily be well received by you. It would allow them to proceed with a site plan application for parking. But it would also, they felt, behoove the neighborhood to have this application for change of the underlying zone further enhanced by the protective layer that's afforded with the special development district, and to have that overlain on the proposed development site. It also, by going to an SDD, would allow the applicant to be able to do things that they would not otherwise be able to do with a straight site plan application, such as put up an 8-foot-high fence to buffer the parking area from the neighbors that directly abut it. Your zoning code does not, the highest, I believe, is 7 feet.
Correct.
So they would need either a variance or relief from the zoning code through a special development district to be able to do that. But the most important thing to them was to provide a zoning mechanism that would make the neighbors as comfortable as possible with what they are proposing to do here. And they were not going to proceed if they had opposition from the people that abutted the property in a way that would make it, not something that would leave them as good neighbors. So they early on started speaking with the neighborhood. I believe they went out in March and began contacting people. You have a comprehensive set of letters that were sent out and maps and explanation that they had at that time. And then they have proceeded since then to continue to try and make contact with interested parties. And I'll go through some of the supportive letters that we received from them. In fact, why don't I do that right now? I'd like to read to you. What's our next? Is it the zoning map?
That's the zoning map, and then I've got the...
Okay, go back if you would to the yellow one. So they've met with the owner of 105 South Main Street. Again, that's the apartment complex to the south. And they have provided a document which indicates they have no opposition. They obviously, 1690 7 is the property that sold them the piece to the rear, 1697 Boulevard, and they are supportive of the application. They also spent a fair amount of time meeting with the owners of 1699 Boulevard and met with them several times, and they are supportive of the application once the applicant was willing to make certain commitments with regard to protecting them from the parking lot. And I would like to, I believe it's already in the record, but I'm going to leave these with you anyway. These are 3 letters from the persons that are most directly impacted by this change. And the first one is from Andreas Kapantonopoulos at 148 Woodrow Street, and the letter was dated August 17th, and they have said, in addition to previous conversations, Eric Chosick and Stephen Pappas met with me on August 8th to walk the proposed parking lot area and specifically the location of the dumpster. I understand that the dumpster will be within an enclosure screening the dumpster and that there will be a new 8-foot-tall cedar fence along the property line between our properties. And I would just note that that fence will be designed to have the good side of the fence facing the neighbors, which was something that was requested with regard to the fence itself. And it's a cedar fence, which was something they wanted, not a vinyl fence. So it'll be quite attractive. And in the plans that you do have details that show what that fence will look like. It was discussed and agreed between myself and Eric and Stephen as the owners of the Northbrook Place apartments that after the completion of installation of the parking lot and 8-foot-tall fence between our properties, if I would like a row of arborvitae or similar shrub of similar height to the fencing planted on my side of the fence, they will do so upon my request. Additionally, all trees bordering the property lines will most likely need to be removed, as any excavation would damage the root systems. All tree stumps will therefore be ground down to allow for new plantings. Having met with the owners, viewed the property, and proposed plans, I have no objection to the proposed parking lot expansion. The other letter is from Mr. Naigun at 1699-1701 Boulevard. And it says, this is dated May 19th, to whom it may concern, my home is located at 1699-1701 Boulevard, West Hartford. My property will abut the expanded parking lot at 9799 Main Street. Eric Chosick of Northbrook Place LLC has provided me with the proposed parking expansion plans, as well as the style and type of fence that will be used between our new property line. I am in favor and support of their application to extend the zoning on their property to allow for the expansion of the parking lot per their proposal before the town council. And the final one is on the north side. This is from Dr. Paul McKenna. It's McKenna Orthodontics, and dated August 17th, and it says, to whom it may concern, I own the adjacent property to 9799 South Main Street, sharing the boundary along the entire south side of my property with Northbrook Apartments. Eric Chosick of Northbrook Place LLC has provided me the proposed parking expansion plans. I am in favor and support of their application to extend the zoning on their property to allow for the expansion of the parking lot per their proposal before the town council. So I'm going to just ask that that be added to the record, if I may. I think you already have it, but I just want to make sure. So going on to the zone change plan. This is important for you as you make a decision as to whether it's proper to change the underlying zoning. If you'll note, the parcel outlined in red is the subject site for the SDD. The purple portion of that is R6 zone, and that would be amended to RM1. The brown portion or tan portion of that property is zoned RM1 already, as is that whole line of properties going to the south, to the south on South Main Street. So what we are proposing is an extension of that RM1 line, which is in conformance with the existing depth of the RM1 zone on South Main Street. It's not going any deeper than the existing line of RM1 zoning, which abuts all those, the white is R10 single family. So it's no different from the current RM1 line as you proceed north-south on South Main Street. And there's also the zoning above that is a business zone. That's where the two office buildings are located. And there's an RP piece to the immediate north, residential parking to the immediate north of our site, all of which those 3 parcels are also encumbered by a special development district. But this use is already established. The use is operated as an RM1 use since 1968, even though it was never zoned for RM1. This zoning map shows you that what we are proposing is consistent with the comprehensive plan, which is the scheme of zoning that already exists in the area. And we've also shown you that those that immediately abut that piece of property where there's going to be a proposed extension of the parking lot are comfortable with it, to the best of our knowledge. With that, I think what I'd like to do is go to the site plan. And I'm going to pass that for now. So we'll go to the site plan, and Jeff is just going to describe for you the changes that are proposed and some of the communications that were undertaken with town staff with regard to the changes that are proposed for the site. Jeff?
Thank you, Robin. Hi, I'm Jeff Fitzgerald, professional engineer and planner with Bowler. We're located at 65 LaSalle here in West Hartford, Connecticut. So you see in front of you the proposed site plan, and basically what we're doing is we're adding 22 parking spaces in this area in a kind of traditional parking configuration. Because we're adding pavement to an area that's currently grassed, we have to accommodate the stormwater and detain it and infiltrate some on site, which we're doing with a series of underground chambers in this area that connect to the existing drainage system that discharges out to South Main Street. The trash enclosure is located here. We're actually improving the widths of the drive aisles to get to that trash enclosure and in and out. Right now, it's pretty tight in the current configuration. We worked with engineering and planning, who both kind of modulated to be able to provide improved parking space depths closer to the required depths there, and improved drive aisle widths where there's currently a pinch point at this point. The fence that we talked about, 8-foot high cedar fence, will be around the perimeter of the parking area. And we've added, we added at the request of planning an additional tree back here. You see a couple of the required trees. We're adding a tree in the middle, as well as a series of fountain grasses planted along the edge to that can provide a bit more of an aesthetic to the parking lot, but still be able to be used as a snow shelf in the wintertime. So in all, I'm going to go through the relief that this plan request as part of the SDD application. The first one is relief to section 177-6E, schedules requesting a minimum side yard of 4.6 feet where RM1 requires at least half of the building height or 15 feet. So that's an existing nonconformity that's being maintained. Item 2, Section 177-10, open space, we're requesting to provide 2,129 square feet of usable open space where 7,400 square feet is required by ordinance. Item 3, fence height, requesting an 8-foot high fence where I indicated where 7 feet is the maximum allowed at side and rear yards. But that was requested by the neighbors. Item 4, parking space dimensions, requesting that the minimum parking space dimension be 8-foot minimum width and 16-foot in length, as opposed to the 9 by 18. Section 177-32E, width of drive aisles. We're requesting a minimum width of the aisle to be 20 feet, where 24 feet is required. That pinch point, the pinch point here at present is 13.8 feet. So by adjusting this north line, we're making that now 20 feet, improving a very much non-conforming two-way drive aisle. And item 6, section 177-32, loading spaces, requesting no loading space, which matches the existing condition. An existing non-conforming half loading area, 12 by 22, is currently used, and that's indicated on the plan in this area. It's non-conforming because it does impact this drive aisle, but that's the area where people currently load the building, and we're maintaining that. And finally, section 177-34, type C screening. We're requesting 3.6-foot minimum screening strip, where 5 foot is the minimum required at a fence or wall, and that's in this area here, where we are increasing that drive aisle width to make that a little safer and more conforming two-way traffic. So that's really a summary of the SDD being proposed. Like I said, adding 22 spaces. So I'd be happy to answer questions, and that's the extent of the site plan.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Are you ready for questions, us to open questions up from the council?
Yeah, I think we're almost there. Why don't I just add quickly that this has been reviewed by the Design Review Advisory Committee favorably. You have a recommendation from them, also from the Town Plan and Zoning Commission, with regard primarily to the rezoning and its conformance with the Plan of Conservation and Development and your zoning code. And staff reviews are finished to the extent we still need to do a little bit of additional drainage planning that we've discussed with the planning staff and engineering staff, and that their drain calculations and things like that that could be just incorporated into the final set of Mylars if this application is approved. So yes, with that, and I've already given you all the reasons why in the application letter. We think this makes a lot of sense in terms of zoning and compliance with your regulation. And we've just had an opportunity to go through the plan, the scheme, the comprehensive plan of zoning for that locale. And I think that underscores more than anything else. And I believe that was fairly important to the Town Plan and Zoning Commission when it made its favorable recommendation to you. I think that certainly is strong support for what we are proposing here. So with that, we welcome any questions you might have.
Thank you, Attorney Pearson. I don't know if there's any public comment. Maybe we want to look
There
for...
are people who would like to speak.
Okay. I think we'll start with that, and then we will go to questions for the council. And while we're waiting on that, Madam Clerk, do we have any written comments that came in?
No, I did not receive any.
Thank you. Thank you. So we have two people signed up. First, we have Michelle Hall. Just state your name and address for the record. Do you not want to speak? You just.
I do.
Oh, okay.
I'm a little nervous because I didn't know all these people were here.
That's okay. We're very kind. Don't worry. Come on up, and it's voice activated. Just state your name and address for the record. And we usually give 3 minutes if you are.
I'll
We
keep it
loosely will
brief.
stay with that with 2.
My name's Michelle Hall, and I live at 170 Woodrow Street. So I just live a couple of doors down on Woodrow. So I guess a couple of things, maybe it's a question, but as I'm sure people here have heard, we've had just a significant uptick of wildlife, just in general. And this, do you mind a pointer?
Well, you actually have to be at the mic, but you can, yeah.
Sorry, the lot that's being taken over, that back half, if you haven't been there, it's a really, really dense lot. So it's got lots of trees and it's fantastic. But the problem is for those of us that live on Woodrow Street, we are already overrun with rats and with raccoons and possums and one has to believe that a lot of those wildlife things probably live in this deeply wooded area. So I guess my question is if we get rid of all of that, where does that displace the wildlife? What are we doing to manage what is already a pre-existing problem for folks that live on Woodrow Street? So number one. And then just the second thing is that, for all the apartments that are on that street, and I know we're talking about this one here, but the light pollution from the LEDs that are on there, and for most of the buildings, they have multiple levels of LEDs. So there's the light right above the doors, there's a mid light, and then there's a big, really big light up top. And they're so bright. And so for those of us that have yards back there, not only is the light so bright that it shines into the front of our houses through the back, but it makes it really hard to enjoy our backyards. Just like on a summer night, the lights there, you can't see people. It's just that bright. And so one can imagine that by extending the parking lot, surely you will want to improve the lighting. And so just some consideration to what that does to the folks that live there, and then the wildlife. They're just my 2 concerns. That's it. Okay, I'm going to sit down.
You
Thanks.
did wonderfully. Thank you very much. Well, I hope that wasn't too scary. Okay, and next we have Bryant Piccioli. Okay, sorry, that looks like a U, not an I. Would you like to come up, Brian?
Good evening. My name is Bryant Piccioli. I'm the resident at 1681 Boulevard, just to the north of the property here. So similar to Michelle, less of a question, but more of a request to the developers. Similar issue with the lighting. My son's bedroom has a spotlight shining right into his room. We've gotten room darkening shades, and it does not do anything to help. So if you were to look at the property on what would be the far right-hand side in this diagram, that light has a hood over the top of it, so it shines the light down. The other lights along the 3rd row of that building do not, and they shine directly into our home and our neighbor's home. So that would be our primary request, is that we do something about the lighting there to focus it downward into the parking lot versus being beamed right into our rooms. The second item, I know there's not much you can do. There were already new arborvitae planted there, but the neighbor that we share to the north of your property, to the south of our property, decided to cut down all the trees when he amended his own parking lot. So now we have the 3rd level of your building looking straight into my backyard. And I know doesn't seem like there's enough room to plant any other trees there, but if you do so find some excess funds that you can throw a tree in there, that would be wonderful. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Piccioli. Is there anybody else in the audience? I don't think so. That has not spoken. Okay. Then we will open it up to the council. I'm sorry, Mr. Winograd?
Did you want to have the developer, if they have any responses even now to those?
Well,
comments,
I
would be
was
helpful.
going to ask myself, so, I mean, it's up to you. Yeah, that's fine. Would you like to respond to them?
Yes, I'd be happy to. We did prepare a light plan with new light fixtures in the parking area and on the building. And they're full cutoff fixtures, dark sky compliant, LED, modern fixtures. One of the things I think the neighbors are experiencing is that a lot of the older apartment buildings on the stretch have older lights. And so that was part of the system. We can, go through that. We're very comfortable with what we submitted, had zero spillage off the property, and they're all compliant. I think that's all.
The vegetation, I think, was the other.
Before we leave that, I'm
Okay.
never supposed to ask a question I don't know the answer to, but I'm taking a risk here. So is there something on the building now that we're going to change? Because Mr. Chosick just told me he would address whatever the issue was that just
Yes,
raised.
we were
So
proposing.
you're taking those off and putting new ones on the building itself?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Excellent. And the vegetation was the other.
It-
And misplacement of maybe some
Yeah, I'll
wildlife,
talk
right?
about that, but let's talk about landscaping. Mr. Piccioli is correct. There's very limited space there. If there's anything we can do, we will, but we've been working very hard to add additional shade trees of some height on this property, and I'm not quite sure what else could fit in there. But I think there'll be a huge improvement in terms of getting those lights from staring you down, which they should not be. In regards to control of animals, the good thing about this is the use is already there. So there are already 36 or previously 37 apartments there. So we're not increasing anything on the site that's going to attract more critters to the site. And we do have an enclosure now for the dumpster, and that's going to help whatever is happening back there now. In terms of the review by the town staff, the health district did request us to take a hard look at rodent control and to make sure we are on top of that. And Mr. Chosick and Mr. Pappas submitted a response to the health district saying as soon as they took over the property, they started engaging on a regular basis to make sure that there was treatment that was going on, to make sure there were certainly no rodents with regard to the property. Opossums, I don't know what one does about opossums, but they're sort of there. May they migrate someplace else? I suppose that's possible. They're probably not going to enjoy living on the parking lot, but at the same time, I always had one living under my porch in West Hartford. So, they're very adaptable. But certainly in terms of rodent control, that will be handled, is being handled now, and will be further handled with the expansion of the parking area.
Thank you, Attorney Pearson. Thank you. All right, well, I'll start by opening up questions to the council, so you may want to stay right there. Mr. Sweeney, did you raise your hand?
Yeah. Sorry. I'm more of an image person, so I'm just looking at this on Google Earth, I think this is. And to address the gentleman's issue on Boulevard, if this is appropriate, Madam Mayor, but I just want to ask his a question of like the situation in his backyard.
Your computer data.
Is it right to ask him about?
Maybe through them, through the applicant.
Yeah, I guess through the applicant, just addressing the gentleman at 1681 Boulevard. Is there a fence that bifurcates his property from your spot?
There is.
Okay. And then the issue was those trees are being eliminated and something else is going to be debated on put in there, right?
We're
Not
not,
for 1681, right?
we're not eliminating trees that impact his view. He was saying the owner of the lot north. Oh,
Can you, yeah.
I believe he was talking about this parcel cleared some trees, and there's so there is room here. We can look to add trees. I don't know if it's going to block third floor apartment view over that, because again, even an 8-foot high fence doesn't reach second floor.
Okay. No, I was just trying to get it's hard to really understand where you're looking on this without
Right.
looking at it in real time, so.
So that is an existing office building that is to the north of our property.
Yep, okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Mr. Davidoff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. DRAC had a recommendation that an additional street tree be planted just north of the entry drive.
That has been included to the plan, added onto the plan.
That's right here.
Okay. In the original submission of the narrative, under compliance with the Plan of Conservation Development SDD standards, there's an entire discussion about 12 Grove Street.
Oh, well, that was revised. So you have in your file a revised 8/23/22.
Yeah, I got that. So that came out, that was by error?
Yes. Yes.
That was a
That was
copy
by
paste thing?
council error, yes.
Okay.
I just will, Mr. Davidoff finds the errors for sure.
He's
Any
very,
typos?
he is very thorough, yes. he is.
There was mention of waivers that you were seeking this evening, but I don't see that anywhere in the narrative.
It's
Can you-
on the site plan,
Can you go through them all again?
yes. You want to pull them up?
They're here. You can hand.
You want to hand, oh, no, you wanted to, okay, they're on the site plan, it's sheet, let me get you the exact sheet,
C301.
C301,
Yeah.
okay. It's underneath the zoning table, it's got a list of what's requested as being,
Can we just go through those? please?
sure, happy to do that. So they are minimum side yard of 4 feet 6 inches, where RM1 requires at least half of the building height, or 15 feet. Now, that's frankly an existing situation, but it's still a change from what would be required by the zoning code. Section 17710, open space. Request is to provide 2,129 square feet of usable open space, where 7,400 square feet is required, and that is because of the number of units. But the number of units has always been existing, and so indeed, we've picked up additional square footage for open space with the additional lot area that was added. So the open space requirement with this application is more conforming than the existing apartment complex at 99 South Main Street. Fence height. Now, we previously mentioned that the maximum you can have for a fence is 7 feet on side and rear yards. And after speaking with the neighbors requested an 8-foot fence along the new parking area to be expanded. Section 17732E, 8A, parking space dimensions, requesting minimum parking space dimension to match existing condition, which currently they're 8 feet minimum width and 16 feet length. In other words, the existing parking is non-conforming, and we're continuing the same standard through the rest of the parking area because they know since 1968 it has functioned and it has worked, and that they would prefer to have more parking spaces than fewer parking spaces with the addition of this area in the back. So it's a continuation of an existing nonconformity, if you will, through the SDD vehicle to be able to get relief from that standard. Section 17732E8C, width of aisle. We are requesting a minimum width of aisle to be 20 feet where 24 feet is required. The existing condition, the existing drive aisle is 13 feet 8 inches. So we're improving an existing situation, but we're not meeting the full code requirement for aisle width. And I'll also note that this is often something that you find to be a comfortable waiver, if we use that term, in applications with private parking areas like this. Section 17732E9, loading spaces. We are requesting that no loading space be added where one would otherwise be required, and this will match the existing condition. The existing condition has basically a non-conforming 12 by 22 loading area that is currently used for that purpose. It's not a defined loading space, but it's what has served this building for the same number of units that we are not increasing except for that, getting that one additional unit certified since 1968. So we're asking relief to be able to leave the current situation, which seems to have functioned just fine. The last one is 17734D3, Type C screening. We are requesting a 3-foot 6-inch minimum screening strip where a 5-foot strip is the minimum required with a fence or wall. And that is to be able to accommodate the layout that we're showing here, which again, DRAC reviewed, TP and Z reviewed. This isn't more, is it?
No, it's
The same thing. You gave me two. Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying those and showing the differences between what currently exists, what's going to exist.
Which creates a good case for why it's an appropriate thing to do.
Right. Now, and the last thing I want to touch on, the lighting concern that was raised by the two residents. So has there been a resolution between the applicant and the residents this evening? Did I miss that?
As far as I'm concerned, we've resolved it in two ways. One, we've made a commitment to them to make sure those lights are not shining out anyway, but as Mr. Fitzgerald has gone through, the plans already require those to be changed, and that everything is downlit, dark sky compliant, and the plan that you have, which shows the spillage off-site, indicates there's zero spillage over the property lines. We will fix those. Those will not be an issue, and Mr. Chosick has confirmed that.
Super, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davidoff. Any other questions? So just back to the drainage that was incomplete. I would think when, and I'm sure that this is part of the analysis, that the thickly vegetated, how do you say vegetated? I don't know. The thick green area that is maybe home to a wildlife that is there obviously absorbs a lot, and when you put the asphalt there, that will cause much more runoff. And you said underneath you're going to have an extensive drainage system. So those plans are not finalized, is that? I'm sorry, I didn't follow that.
Yes, they were finalized in a model that shows the stormwater being captured, being detained in underground chambers that will infiltrate into the ground and mimicking what's happening now at present, was proposed. Engineering had a comment with regard to the outlet structure that requires us to rerun the model. We can do that. We just didn't have enough time to rerun the model and get it approved, it reviewed, and have engineering have enough time to review it. Greg and Julie had, they thoroughly go through it. So we said, yeah, we know what they're asking for. We have no problem achieving that, and we just requested that. It doesn't really impact the overall plan, and we're happy to make the change that they requested to the outlet to their satisfaction.
So we would just potentially approve with the condition that that is, okay. All right. I just want to make sure that the drive aisle, I know is a better situation, but there are more cars going in and out potentially of that drive aisle. And I just want to make sure that, was there any public safety review of that for 20 feet? Because actually in the documentation I saw 22 feet, but so 20 feet was a little surprising to me, but.
Yeah, most of the aisles are 22 feet. The tightest point is where I had pointed out before, where it's currently 13.6, right at this pinch point. It's super tight. And so we've reworked the curb line here to make that 20 feet. But the aisles back here are 22. So
That was the
yeah,
confusion.
and that does. We did meet with staff, and that does handle that, so.
Okay, and the only other, I know that you had talked about trash containment is going to be an improvement over what is there now, that there is going to be more containment. Because of the rodent issue that was mentioned, we just want to make sure that it's not just that there is a structure there, but that the actual trash is maintained in a way that is, and that's obviously a health department a requirement, but I know they were concerned about it, and I just want to make sure that,
Yeah, we're proposing a concrete slab with, again, a full enclosure of it, and it's just a dumpster in a asphalt parking lot, basically in a parking space. So I think that's a significant improvement, and much easier to clean and maintain.
okay. All right. Any further questions by the council? One last time. Okay. I just also, Attorney Pearson did share, but letter dated August 19th, 2022 from Design Review Advisory Committee recommending approval. Letter dated September 16th, 2022 from Town Planning and Zoning Commission recommending approval. And with that, we will close the public hearing. And we'll give ourselves, does anybody need a break? Yes. We'll take a 5-minute break, and we'll be back here at 8:10, start the council meeting. Thank you.
I know I could make it.
All right, calling the 7:30 Town Council meeting, September 28th, Town Council meeting to order, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Ms. LeBrew?
Ms. Billings Smith.
Present.
Ms. Blanks.
Present.
Ms. Cantor.
Here.
Mr. Cortez.
Here.
Mr. Davidoff.
Here.
Ms. Fay.
Here.
Mr. Sweeney.
Here.
Mr. Winograd.
Present.
And Mr. Zdanowitz.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. LeBrew. There are no, I don't think there's anybody signed up for public forum, but. And is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to something on the agenda that's not subject to a public hearing? Okay, we will go on to number 4, Mr. Sweeney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Without objection, I move that we place items 5A, 5B, 5C, 10A, and 10B on the consent calendar.
Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, the items are placed on the consent calendar. Mr. Sweeney?
Madam Mayor, I move adoption of the consent calendar.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We now go to 6A. Mr. Sweeney?
Yes. I think you were just going to ask the Corporation Council for the conditions.
First reading.
All right. Madam Mayor, I move approval of the application of Northbrook Place LLC and Elite Apartments LLC for rezoning and special development district designation of 99 South Main Street is subject to the conditions of the approval as discussed.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Mr. Dodge, we are passing out the special development district approvals, conditions of approval. So, would we make the motion as,
Thank you,
can
Madam
you
Mayor.
just give us the wording?
The motion was made subject to the conditions of approval, which I can discuss now. I've handed them out to every member of the town council.
Can you just, can I ask you if it's a condition of approval on the drainage plan also in here? Yes.
So, Madam Mayor, these are your standard conditions of approval, and I do want to highlight 2 items that I believe are responsive to some of the comments and concerns that were raised tonight that are part of our standard conditions of approval, and then discuss one additional item that we felt was appropriate for this particular application. First, Madam Mayor, you'll see that in subsection D3 under maintenance plan, the applicant is required to create a maintenance plan for the property, which they are required to submit to the town annually, which does include a plan for refuse and litter control, which should help with some of the concerns about rodent control that were raised this evening. In addition to that, Madam Mayor, I know that during the public hearing, there were concerns about lighting on the property, and as part of our standard conditions of approval under D5, we do require that all outdoor lighting be downshielded and consistent with the locations and specifications outlined in the plan. And so the lighting, as part of the plan, will be required to be downlighted, which again, hopefully will address some of those concerns that were raised during the public hearing. The additional, condition of approval that we're adding under 7C, construction, will address the stormwater drainage issues that were raised earlier, and that will require that all stormwater infrastructure be installed per the standards and specifications of the Town of West Hartford Division of Engineering. And as you heard during the public hearing, the Division of Engineering has already been in discussions with the applicant, and I think that they'll be able to satisfy any concerns that the Department of Engineering has. Those are the conditions of approval, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to answer any questions, and as the Deputy Mayor indicated, he did move the approval subject to the conditions, and so these will be adopted as part of your approval.
Just taking it off here. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Dodge. Just one more question on the site lighting. The site lighting now means the complete site, not just the parking that we are approving the change in zoning, so it's the complete site?
That's correct, Madam Mayor. It applies to all outdoor lighting is required to be downshielded.
Okay, thank you. All right. Motion has been made and seconded, subject to the conditions of approval. This would now be discussion. Would anybody like to? Okay, Mr. Zizanowicz.
I'd just like to say that it was nice to see the neighbors come in and you, both the representatives and the ownership, that responded very quickly and right on the spot. And really, that's what a community is about. You have a neighbor come in and you're able to address those things right there. I don't know what was said after the meeting, but they seem to leave happy. And I want to thank you for that. That's awesome. And that's great work. So I just need to make that comment because it was nice to see that.
Thank you, Mr. Zdanowitz. Mr. Davidoff?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I didn't see anything in the conditions about the additional street tree just north of the driveway. I didn't know if the applicant was willing to do that or not.
I think they adjusted the plan to include it. Well, can you just nod to confirm? Thank you.
Okay. So that's great. And then I just want to get in the record that the applicant had 7 requests for waivers of our zoning code and a variety of things: minimum lots, side yard, open space requirements of fence height, parking space dimensions, no necessity for a loading dock, and the screening distance necessary to be in compliance with the zoning. I think that's important to get on the record that we're going to waive those conditions as part of the approval this evening. I thank the applicant for answering my question and clarifying that for me so I could get that as part of this record. And I too commend the applicant for reaching out to the people who came to speak this evening with respect to lighting. As we all know, the ability to enjoy one's property includes, what sometimes happens within your house, but it also happens outside your house, and the ability to enjoy your backyard and your outside spaces and not be interfered with by lighting. And this is now going to be a situation where this is going to be addressed, and these people will have quiet enjoyment of their space. The child will be able to now have a light shining into his bedroom. So it's a win-win for everybody, and I think in the end it's going to be a win-win, and I think this is the bigger picture for this particular apartment building and the ability to attract more tenants. Applicant pool. With the uptick in apartment development, it's good to see that somebody's willing to take the necessary steps to make their property more competitive with those in the surrounding nearby neighborhood. And I think that this is a step in the right direction. And I believe that they'll take whatever necessary steps with respect to the inside. That has nothing to do with us, but if you're willing to take the steps on the outside, obviously you're going to probably do something on the inside as well. So thank you for making this significant reinvestment in our community. I think that's important, and I will be supporting this application this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davidoff. Any other comments? So I want to echo both Mr. Zdanowicz and Mr. Davidoff's appreciation for working with the neighbors. That makes all of our lives much, much better and easier. And it is what a community is about. And Mr. Chosik and Mr. Pappas, I want to thank you for your investment. This is an incredible location, and it is an older building that needs some love. And I'm glad to have it in your hands. And I'm sure that you will do that, and so make it more marketable and all of that more appealing. And I want to thank town staff, because when you see a application like this, it seems very easy. And I think Attorney Pearson said, we thought it was, but it really isn't. And there's so much work that goes on behind the scenes. So thank you for all that you did to prepare this and make this a better asset for the community, so I appreciate it very much. All right, with that, we will go to a roll call vote. Ms. LeBrow?
Ms. Billings-Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Blanks?
Yes.
Ms. Cantor?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
Yes.
Mr. Davidoff?
Yes.
Ms. Fay?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Winograd?
Yes.
And Mr. Zdanowitz?
Yes.
It is unanimously approved.
Congratulations. All right, B, Mr. Sweeney.
Madam Mayor, I move a resolution authorizing the execution of a temporary and permanent easements to support the Fern Street Bridge replacement.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sweeney.
I move it. I want to be clear. I move it.
Okay, I'm going to second your motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. Mr. Ledwith, would you just like to give us a really quick explanation?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor. By way of background, the Fern Street Bridge is located adjacent to Fern Bridge Park. Originally constructed in 1939, we were recently, a few months ago, notified by the Connecticut Department of Transportation that the structure is in need of replacement. Final design preparations are underway with bidding expected and later in 2022. Demolition of the existing bridge and construction of the new bridge will start in 2023 with completion expected in the fall of '24 or thereabouts. Now, in order to facilitate the replacement of the bridge, the town will need temporary and permanent easements over property located at 572 and 578 Fern Street. In order to mitigate the impact of the easements, the town will make improvements to both properties, including the installation of fencing, retaining walls, guide rail, and landscaping not to exceed $23,000. In addition, we'll be responsible for the maintenance, repair, and replacement as needed of the vinyl fence installed beyond the retaining wall at 572 Fern. We'll also need a temporary easement over the property located at 580 Fern, which will require the town to ultimately replace the existing driveway at a cost not to exceed $7,000. The property owners have agreed to the terms of the proposed easements by the town. And at this point, I'll pause and turn it over to through you, Madam Mayor, to the council for any questions.
Any questions for the town manager? Ms. Blanks?
I just have a quick question, Mr. Ledwith. And how often, just curiosity, how often are these bridges either inspected or required to be inspected by DOT?
That's a good question, Councilor Blanks, and I will actually turn that over to our Director of Community Development and former town engineer, Wayne Martin, who will know that off the top of his head.
Welcome,
Thank you,
Mr. Martin.
Thank you. Good evening. So the DOT does inspection of town bridges that are over 20 feet in length once every other year, and they share that information with the engineering division. The town staff we'll do our own visual inspection of smaller structures, bridges and culverts that are not inspected by the DOT. We try to do those each year. A lot of them don't need inspections every year for the smaller structures. And we keep records of those. And the ones that show signs of issues, obviously, we keep a closer look of those. We have also hired engineers from time to time to do inspections of those structures, the ones that the DOT does not inspect. And we've been focusing on the ones that are of greater need, North Main Street Bridge, Rayburn Culvert, now Fern Street Bridge, as examples.
Thank you, Ms. Blanks. And was that a surprise to you at all about the condition of the Fern Street?
No, it's something we've received the reports from the DOT every other year. There was already a weight restriction on it, so we knew that it was coming to the tail end of its life. Most of the bridges are designed to last at least 50 years with some ongoing maintenance. This one's a little bit challenging because it sits pretty low with respect to the water course. It's a concrete structure, so there's a lot of water exposure. Water touches it quite a bit, even on a moderate storm. Water's actually top Fern Street at the park fairly frequently, so it gets a lot of water exposure as a concrete structure. It's just in need of repair. It's at the end of its life. Right now, presently, we actually have the travel lane shifted over because the south side, or the side of the bridge closest to the park, is in a pretty weakened state, and we had to reduce the load rating again. So it's time.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yes, Ms. Fay, do you want Mr. Martin to stay up here? Yes?
I don't. Sure, why not? Change of scenery. Mr. Ledwith, I was just wondering, there's been a lot of work, thankfully, that's going on in town, which is great. A little disruptive, but the end result will be great. I'm just thinking about the one that we just recently did on North Main Street. We probably had to make some sort of reparations to that owner as well. And I was just wondering, how do you come to the value, like the 23,000? A driveway is pretty self-explanatory. You get an estimate and whatnot, but how did you guys arrive at that? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Fay. Through you, Madam Mayor, I'll turn it back to Mr. Martin. Thank you, Councilor Fay. And through you, Madam Mayor, I'll turn it back to Mr. Martin on assessing the value of the easements.
Sure. So it really depends on the property and the location to the construction project as far as how much it will be disrupted. The three properties that we engaged with for the Fern Street Bridge project were a little tricky, especially one of them. The driveway is right up against the bridge. So it's really a matter of how much they'll be disruptive and what it'll take to get them through the project. There isn't a recipe necessarily for every single property. We would approach them and offer them something. It's different every time. The other thing to point out with the North Main Street Bridge and the Fern Street Bridge, when we were going through the designs, we realized that those bridges were built right up against the property line. There were no easements put in place to do any maintenance without going onto private property. So for both of those projects, we took the opportunity to secure permanent easements so that we would just notify the property owner that we're going to go onto the property to do an inspection or maybe a minor repair. Replacement like the Fern Street Bridge, obviously you need more space than that, but the routine maintenance or inspections, at least we would have a right and we would just notify them of that. So the short answer is it depends on the project and the impact.
Just one follow-up to that. We did not refer this to TPZ because those easements already existed, correct? I mean, is that the...
No, this went to TP&Z.
Yeah.
Oh, it did go to, I'm sorry, my bad. All right, thank you. All right. Okay. Any other further questions? All right. Motion's been made and seconded, and we can go to a voice vote if that, thank you, Mr. Martin. We can go to a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 7A, Mr. Sweeney.
Madam Mayor, without objection, I move that we receive the application of 433 South Main Street amendment to SDD number 15, an application filed on behalf of Corporate Center West LLC, owner of 433 Main Street, located with Special Development District 15. Refer to Town Planning and Zoning Commission and Design and Review Advisory Committee for the required review and schedule for a public hearing on November 9th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m.
Okay. Is there any objection? There being no objection, the motion is adopted, and we can go to reports from the town manager. Mr. Levitt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My town manager's report can be found online for viewing pleasure by our residents. I'll begin the report with a summary of upcoming council business and meetings. Next week, we have our Public Safety Committee meeting, which will be held on Monday, October 3rd at 6:30 p.m. And then we have a Public Works Facilities and Sustainability Committee meeting next Thursday, October 6th at 6 p.m. Both meetings are virtual. And then our next town council meeting is October 12th, and that meeting will begin at 7:30. However, there is a public hearing prior to the start of that meeting on the 12th. I'll talk a little bit about absentee ballots. The town clerk's office has received a significant number of requests for absentee ballot applications from representatives of candidate campaigns this year. Anyone can be a distributor of 5 or more absentee ballot applications as long as it's disclosed with the town clerk's office. The town clerk's office, however, never sends out unsolicited applications, nor are ballots ever sent out without a valid application. As a result, some residents may receive unsolicited or multiple applications, which may cause some confusion. If you did not request, nor do you need an absentee ballot, simply discard it. The campaigns have indicated that they intend to mail applications the week of October 3rd. Anyone voting by absentee ballot must follow the law, and there remain specific eligibility requirements in Connecticut for voting by absentee ballot. They include active service in the armed forces of the United States, absence from my town of residence, sickness, physical disability, duties as an election official at a polling place other than my own during voting hours, or religious tenets forbid secular activity on the day of the election. Applications may be picked up in the town clerk's office or downloaded from the town clerk's website. Once applications are received, ballots are then mailed out. Absentee ballots will be mailed and will be available starting October 7th, 2022. You may also come in person to obtain the application and receive your ballot. Please note that each person who applies for an application must sign it with an original signature. Parents cannot sign for their child or spouse. Absentee ballot applications can be deposited in the secure drop boxes at the entrance to Town Hall or in the box at the Faxon Library in Elmwood. Completed ballots may be deposited in the drop boxes as well. Applications as well as completed ballots can also be mailed to West Hartford Town Clerk, 50 South Main Street, room 313, West Hartford, Connecticut, 06107. Questions regarding absentee ballots may be sent to elections@westhartfordct.gov. Our new Elmwood Community Center and Library Architects, Tecton Architects, who many of you met, invites the public to view and rank 3 initial concepts for the 100 Mayflower Street building. Those concepts can be found on the westhartfordlibrary.org website under survey. The survey gives participants 3 possible visual concepts that include floor plan layouts, building shape, and building placement on the site. The project web page is hosted on the Public Library's website. The diagrams were presented at the second community listening session on Wednesday, September 4th at the Elmwood Community Center. By reviewing the potential layouts, residents may start to visualize how programming might work or how flexible spaces may be used for different purposes throughout the day. The end result is often a combination of many concepts. There are 2 upcoming feedback sessions on Thursday, October 6th. A virtual presentation and Q&A will be held from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. At this meeting, there will be an opportunity for residents to ask questions, share feedback, and learn more about the project. On Wednesday, October 26th, from 5 to 8, Tecton Architects will gather community direction as the preferred concept is refined for inclusion in the study report. This event will be held at the Elmwood Community Center Auditorium. It'll be an open house from 5 to 7 p.m., and then we'll have a formal presentation from 7 to 8. The West Hartford Bloomfield Health District invites residents to get the newest COVID booster that tackles Omicron variants and/or get your seasonal flu vaccine at the upcoming public clinics. Residents have a choice of vaccine: Pfizer for ages 12 plus, Moderna for ages 18 and over, and flu for ages 4 and over. Upcoming clinic dates are October 6th at the Elmwood Community Center, October 6th at the West Hartford Town Hall Auditorium, October 17th at the West Hartford Senior Center, October 18th at Bloomfield Senior Center, October 20th again here at Town Hall, and October 21st here at Town Hall. Within the past week, the Health District has administered over 400 COVID boosters and flu vaccines between the 2 towns it serves, so outstanding response to the clinic so far. Hartford Marathon's coming back to West Hartford after a year away. More than 10,000 participants will be on local roads for the 2022 Eversource Hartford Marathon. Roads will close on a rolling schedule starting at 8 a.m. in the Whiting Lane and Morley School neighborhoods, followed by Albany Avenue and Elizabeth Park neighborhoods at 8:30 a.m. Roads will reopen 9:30 and 10 a.m. as runners pass. When possible, police will direct cross traffic during the race. Also wanted to mention real quickly, last Wednesday, September 21st, Lieutenant Governor Susan Bisewitz in the town of West Hartford, several councilors joined us at this special recognition ceremony for Vietnam War era veterans at the Conard High School Auditorium. Over 80 veterans were in attendance with their family and friends. Veterans received a certificate of appreciation from the state of Connecticut, thanking them individually for their service. Another 75 veterans received their certificate by mail. Special thanks to our town clerk, S.E. Lebreau, and our public relations specialist, Renee McHugh, for hosting and organizing the event. It really was a special night. As folks who were there can attest, there was a moment during the program where Lieutenant Governor Bysewicz walked out into the crowd, gave veterans an opportunity to talk about their experiences. And it was really, from my perspective anyways, I'm sure many would agree, just heartwarming to hear their appreciation for having the opportunity to be recognized for their service that goes back 50 plus years. So just a great evening that night. So the rest of the report can be found online, and I will end there and turn it back over to you for any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ledwith, and I couldn't agree with you more. I was going to mention that. It just was an incredibly moving, and we're still getting, I have a couple notes on my, on my desk from veterans that were recognized, and I want to thank Councilwoman Billings Smith and Mr. David Councilman David Off for being there, and it meant a lot to these residents. I also want to thank the town clerk and Renee McHugh too, for it's a lot of work, and really, I mean, and we think that it should be easy to find people that have served, but unless they've registered with the town for assistance, we might not know about them, and so it's a lot of work, right? I mean, so we have built up our database, but we still need to build it up. So if you know someone that has served, they should actually, I think, let town clerk know, correct? Yeah. Anyway, all right, announcements. Park Road Parade is in person October 1st for the 24th Annual Park Road Parade. This is a 1-hour parade. It starts at 10:30 a.m. at Ringgold Street and ends at South Quaker Lane. This is a true community parade showcasing everyone's favorite clubs, organizations, schools, churches, bands, neighborhood groups, sports leagues, businesses, dogs, public officials, and even a stilt walker. And I'll never forget, we had a German exchange student with us, and I was telling her, we have to go to the Park Road Parade, and she said, what's the parade for? And I said, it's just a parade. And she kept saying, oh, is it the parade for nothing? That was her. It was very funny. Because in Germany, there's nothing for no reason. You have to do it for a reason. But anyway, this year's parade does pay tribute to the late Reb Rolson, a lifelong resident of West Hartford, loving family man, business advocate, and Park Road supporter. Rob was a co-host TV announcer of the parade for many years on West Hartford Community Interactive. Rob's family will be represented in the parade by his wife Barbara and his daughter Allison, her husband Andrew, and their sons Zach and Trevor. Renee Danino will be the hosting. She is a blogger, podcaster, public speaker, an advocate for kindness, and she was selected the 2022 Grand Marshal for the 24th Annual Park Road Parade. And let's see. Also, everybody is very encouraged to bring a non-perishable food item. Those food items will be donated to Food Share. They will be boxes. There are 6 businesses that will be collecting them along the route, and the collection will be between 9 a.m. and 12 p.m. So please do that. Also this year they're adding a Go the Extra Mile at 9:30 a.m. This event is open to runners of all ages and abilities. Registration is $20. Click here to sign up, and it's the sign up race CT, whatever. A big thank you goes to all the 2022 sponsors. This parade is completely dependent on donations to operate. So without the support of the community, this grassroots volunteer-driven parade for nothing, no, really, it's for the community, would not be possible. The other thing that's happening on Park Road, Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill, September 28th to October 16th. This is by Lainey Robertson. The show runs for, again, these couple weeks. This will be the first production in the Playhouse Park's 14th main stage season. For more information and tickets, please call the box office or visit Playhouse on Park. And this is the first time, I think in a long time, you can buy tickets on the stage and have a table on the stage to watch the performance, which really will be fun. Feast on the Farm, September 30th. And it's the story of Billie Holiday, by the way. Feast on the Farm, September 30th. Tickets are selling fast. That is this Friday. Chef Dorian Puca of Doro Restaurant Group prepares a 4-course menu featuring regional produce and products for guests to enjoy under the stars and surrounded by nature. The cost is $100 per person, BYOB. Tickets can be purchased at Town Hall or through Leisure Services. West Hartford Garden Club meets on October 6th. And is presenting current trends in floral designs with Sandra Lamo, owner of a Special Place Floral Design Studio in West Hartford. And this will be at 12 p.m. St. John's Episcopal Church. A $10 donation is requested. Register to attend by emailing the Garden Club. Fall into Blueback, October 9th. This is the second annual Artisan Market from 11 to 3 on Isham Road. Shop from local vendors offering a wide range of handmade goods, including jewelry, decor, paints, woodworking crafts, apparel, bath and body products, and more. The event also includes kids' entertainment, live music, pumpkin decorating, arts and crafts. There will also be a food drive for Connecticut Food Share. Please, again, bring a non-perishable item for your neighbors in need. Halloween Horror, an evening of old-time radio theater, October 20th through 23rd. This is presented by the Capitol Classics Company shares these 3 spooky tales of life. They're bringing to life to audiences of these tales. Sorry, it's really been a long day. The show takes place at USJ, University of St. Joseph's Hoffman Auditorium. And for tickets, go to brownpapertickets.com. And Hauntings, October 20th through 29th. History, storytelling, and spooky fun await you at the West Hartford Hauntings Theater Cemetery Tours, hosted by Noah Webster House and Historical Society. Lantern Lit Tour starts at the Old North Cemetery, one of West Hartford's oldest cemeteries, which opened in 1790. Along the way, you will meet dearly departed residents of the town who have returned to enlighten you about the past. It takes place every 15 minutes. Tours leave from 6 p.m. to 8:45 p.m. and run for 45 minutes. And join for the preview October 21st with discounted tickets, and then 6 p.m. tour on the 22nd will be American Sign Language interpreted. Get your tickets at noahwebsteryapsody.com, and tickets are $15 for adults and $10 for children. And I did a birthday party there with my kids when they were younger, and I freaked out a couple of the kids, and it was a nightmare, but it was fun. Anyway, any other announcements? Oh, okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So we have 2 events at West Hartford United Methodist Church. One, the pumpkins are arriving tomorrow evening, where there's going to be about 3,000 pumpkins that will be delivered to open our pumpkin patch. So pumpkins will be available for sale beginning Friday for the month of October, and it goes back to the community. It goes to the Friendship Center, South Park Inn, and missions that go around on the Northeast, for families that can't take care of their property. So it's all for a good cause, the money raised through the pumpkin patch. And another thing that we have going on is the Pumpkin Festival, October 22nd. It's a community event. We'll have vendors there. And most importantly, I'm going to have a Stuff a Truck event again for the food pantry. We did this in the winter, and we had the truck overflowing, and the goal is to need a second truck.
Thank you, Mr. Cortez.
Please stop by.
Thank you, Mr. Cortez. So, and do you unpack the pumpkins, or when they come? Yeah? We'll have fun.
One at a time.
Yeah. And so I don't even know the name of the church. We could just call it the Pumpkin Church. So there you go. All right, Ms. Blanks.
I don't have an announcement. I just want to shout out Catherine Davini and her team of volunteers. I attended the event on Sunday with the EV, and I think it was EV for the vehicles, for the bikes and lawnmowers. And I just want to say it was an awesome event, and I really want to acknowledge the volunteers because they all put in their time and their effort, their time and their talent, and I just think that we need to continue to lift them up and uphold them for all the effort that they give to this town. It was awesome, and more of us for the next year, since it's an annual event, I just would like to see more people, town residents and others, come out and support them, because this is the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Blanks. I've been in the past. I couldn't make it this year, but it is a wonderful event. We have so many wonderful volunteers that are so committed. And Mr. Cortez, thank you for all that you do. Sorry, I was joking. For supporting the community as well. It's really appreciated. All right. Anything further? All right, then we have no more announcements, and we can make a motion to adjourn. So without objection, I move that we adjourn. Any objection? No objection. We are adjourned. What are you pointing to? Oh, Dallas's report. Sorry, Mr. Corporation Counsel. Sorry, Dallas. We're adjourned.
He's the best report this year.
I'm sorry.
That's a hell of a report, Dallas. I love
No, Madam Mayor, I do have to agree with the other parliamentarians on the board. The meeting is adjourned, and so unfortunately, I cannot give the lengthy report that I had been planning on. So, thank you.
Sorry. Oh, my God.
Good trigger on that.
I do that, and I checked it.
Wasn't going to stop until